go. Okay. We're recording now. This is the ET Let's Talk People's Disclosure Movement webinar about Disclosure Day, the movie, and other things. I'm Costa Macris, and I want to welcome everybody who's shown up here. We've got a really good turnout. First of all, let me just say thank you to everybody for taking the time out to be here. I'll try not to take too much of your time, but if we start talking and have a lot of questions and stuff, I'm flexible all day. I don't know how long I'll last, but I really want to make the time for there to be a conversation here because this is a really important time as we're looking at what's going to be happening in less than a week from now. Next Friday is the drop of Disclosure Day. So again, I want to thank everyone for being here. Some of you are new to ET Let's Talk. I happen to know, and some of you have been here a long time. Some of you are recent friends, but it's wonderful that we're here in a community, and I really, really appreciate it. I think in these times we need to be even more in community, and that's going to change even more in the coming months, especially around this topic. So this is my first attempt at coming back from a long hiatus from being on Zoom and doing webinars. So if I'm making any wrong clicks or whatever, or I disappear from the screen, it's because I'm doing something stupid with my mouse, and I'll figure it out and get it right. So I ask for your forgiveness on that. But otherwise, this is just I'm looking at this as just an informal gathering. This is not like a webinar with amazing PowerPoints, which I suck at anyway, but this is more like a conversation because we are a community. Most of us here have been with this topic, UFO, UAP, star people, ET, for a varying amounts of time. And I believe that community is really where it's at now. And again, this is my attempt in an informal way, conversational way to bring us all together. My intention now is to talk about Disclosure Day and what that may mean. But before I we tease all that out, since there are new people that don't know much about ET Let's Talk or the People's Disclosure Movement who are on this session right now, I wanted to give some context and background as to how we got here to this particular moment in time, where we're looking at what I call the entertainment disclosure that's going to arrive next Friday. It's not a governmental, it's not even the people's disclosure that we've had. And I'll talk a little bit about that because that's immense and that's a big deal. But I'm looking at what Spielberg's going to do to the world as the entertainment disclosure, a way of revealing some real truths that look like fiction, but according to him, he's not looking at it as fiction. He's displaying facts as he's researched them and knows them. So that's the entertainment disclosure. Now we'll end with that, talking about Disclosure Day, and then we'll have a chat. And I encourage you all to speak up and give your opinions about what you know so far, or what you hope, and what you maybe think that this might mean. By all means, what you're going to hear from me is a little bit of historical context about how we got here, and the rest will be just my opinions. So I'm not holding myself up as the ultimate authority, not even on this movie or on anything having to do with UFO UAP. I've been in this for 20 years, making contact, being in community, building a worldwide network like that you're all part of. I'm still learning a lot and still encountering people who are having more amazing experiences than I have. So I consider myself as someone who's just gathering folks and letting all of you know that none of us is alone. I mean, we're not alone in the cosmos, which we all pretty much accept, nor are we alone with each other. And what I've been trying to do for the last 20 years, since I had my first contact experience in Mount Shasta in 2006, which launched me into doing all this, I've just been meeting a lot of people again, and hearing a lot of experiences, and I'm always learning. People ask my opinion, and I always say, this is my opinion based on what I know. I can be wrong and I can be amazingly right. But the thing is, we're crowdsourcing all of this. I don't think any one of us has the whole puzzle, at least not in our little 3D meat suits here, unless we're making amazing contact and have access to more universal knowledge than I do, I don't think that we all see the 20,000 foot level. But we can approximate it, I believe, by talking to each other. And again, that's what community is about. I hope that what we're doing today, is the first of a semi-regular, get together just like this to have conversations and sharing about what we know, what we're learning, what we think, what we need help with, resources with, all of that, uh, to to continue, what we're starting today. So again, this is very informal, and I encourage everyone just to spread the word after this. Since I'm recording it, I want a larger community to see this, because I believe that after this movie drops, there will be millions of people who head is going to spin around, their eyes will pop out, some of them will fume out at the ears, some will shake their fists in anger, others will suddenly remember something that happened to them that they passed off, that they now recognize might have been like an NHI, non-human encounter, um, and all of the above. It's going to be a continuum, and it doesn't help if any of us, uh, the least of which me, says, I got all the answers. I know I'm always right, but it doesn't help for that to happen. But what I'm hoping is that all of us can, again, crowdsource what this is all about, because we're standing in the moment of human history. I think there will come I think next Friday, the historians, and I do believe will survive, will have historians. What they look like, I don't know. But I think this will be a fork in the road that people will look at with this movie, not because other events on that scale haven't happened, like Roswell or what has happened in ancient history that we're about to find out that was much larger than we have been taught, but for the present population of this planet, 8+ billion of us, who are all in a continuum of belief or disbelief about this topic. This is, I believe, that fork in the road where those historians will look back and say, things changed on June 12th. They went this way or this way, but they didn't stay the same. Because I don't believe in this age of the internet where any of us can learn within seconds something that has happened 10,000 miles away and then be flooded by all kinds of media with that thing, whatever it is. In other words, we're in that society now where our communication is nearly instantaneous. So I don't believe that a movie like Disclosure Day, with the audience that Spielberg has shown he can command, will be much of a secret to anybody anywhere, unless you're in a country or political system which is, you know, subverting this or not allowing it to happen. And that's beyond my ken. I can't do anything about that. But I believe that anybody who has access to what we're doing here, to digital media, will know about what Spielberg is revealing. And I think that it's very profound. And again, I could be wrong, all my opinion, but after 20 years in this field and watching things going up and down, and also watching and hearing people claiming, clamoring for capital D disclosure, I know that the hunger is out there, at least with those who of us are in the choir in our larger group. But there's even the larger part of humanity that people like Spielberg are going to reach now, who are going to say, whoa, I didn't know this. What do you mean this has been going on? What do we do now? Let me talk to my cousin who I thought was kind of crazy about this and see what he or she thinks now. Uh, I expect some of that to happen, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But I want to prepare all of you because you may be the center of disclosure in your environment. You may be the person that has been talking about this stuff and kind of getting an audience, kind of getting some interest, when all of a sudden around the water cooler, kind of metaphorically speaking, people will be talking about this at least for a while, and who knows into the future how that will roll out and get even bigger. I think it will. But this will be a topic for what I like to call mass consciousness. And I don't say that in any value judgment way, but a consciousness of people who never maybe looked up or wondered, who suddenly are going to get a tap on the shoulder from someone near to them or after seeing the movie, and then have a curiosity now to look up, to ask questions, to have their worldview open a little more. And that can be scary for a lot of people, and it can be enlightening for others and exciting for others. So everyone who's on here, I want to thank you because you will be the instant experts, I believe, in the future in again in your environment, whether it's one person or whether you have a family of hundreds. Uh, I really believe your inbox will be filling, your phone may be ringing with questions, with comments. Who knows? But this is a great, I don't want to say responsibility because I'm not putting that on like in a heavy way, but it's a great opportunity. That's what I want to say for you to take all your wisdom from wherever you come from in your life and experience or spirituality or whatever, and be able to pass it along to somebody whose worldview has suddenly just opened up and they have these existential kind of questions that may have never been like the how's the weather doing today or how about that football team kind of conversations. There'll be other conversations. And again, the opportunity will be to present a picture of this cosmic contact that is imminent, plus the dirty tricks that have been played on us, because people will want to know more about that. And Disclosure Day will deal spot on with those. But let's remember that what comes out of this is our ability to frame it in a larger way, which is not just what the humans who've covered this up for almost 80 years have done to keep it covered up, all the degrees they've gone to. They've killed people, they've ruined reputations, institutionalized people, destroyed careers, all of that to keep this, which I think is the biggest secret in human history right now. Uh, Never mind about religions and stuff. They will claim different ones for different things. And I'm not putting that down. I'm just saying, in the very, uh, in the broadest sense, as humans, this is, I think, the biggest encounter that has ever happened or that is about to happen. And we all have a front seat. So take that in your heart, take that in your mind, give it some thought. Like, how will I respond to people who ask me? Let me put myself in their shoes. How can I deal compassionately with those who might be angry about that or angry at me or wanting to know more or asking me how to make contact? I think there's a whole lot of stuff that's going to shake out from this. And likely most of you here will be able to deal with that pretty gracefully. I have a lot of faith in this. So, having said all that, for those who aren't familiar with ET Let's Talk and the People's Disclosure Movement, I would like just to give you some background because this will tell you how I got here, at least, and how I have this community that I want to talk with and talk to and learn from. The stuff you may not have known before. So, for those of you who've heard this before, please bear with me. But I do want to educate the people who are new so you can have a context. My personal interest began when I was in about maybe 10 or 11 when I discovered a paperback book on UFOs written by the contactees of the 50s and 60s. And I was smitten. There were pictures in it that this is predates AI and CGI and all that. They were just photographs. Some people faked some, but a lot of people didn't. There were photographs in this book of disc-shaped objects with domes and that this person had talked to and talked about. And because I was interested in science fiction, growing up in the Midwest as a young guy in the 60s and 70s, my mind, my eyes, my heart was always on the stars. Had a telescope, read science fiction, the NASA moonshots and all that of the time were a thing that were all over the world. So along with my interest in astronomy, my eyes were just always on the stars. So it was really natural to see this particular book with this picture and go, oh God, they're here. This is cool. Not knowing anything about any motives and intentions, and that's a whole nother topic that people can go into and should. But just the fact, like, look at that. I want to be an engineer. I want to learn how to make one of those and travel the galaxy, right? So that fired my imagination. It wasn't until 2006, many years later in my life here in the San Francisco Bay Area, and that's what you see here, the Golden Gate Bridge. I discovered a group that went to Mount Shasta, 4 hours north of here, who was teaching CE5 protocols, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, which, as many of you know, is human initiated interactive contact, not like CE1 through 4, which is varying degrees of passive contact. It happens to you, you observe it, you note something, maybe you report it, maybe you keep it in. But CE1 through 4 is passive. It's happened to you. CE5 was a new departure, which meant, hey, I can sit down. I don't have to wait half a lifetime and just hope I see something. I can initiate it. And as I've learned in the last 20 years, thousands of people have been using CE5 protocols of different kinds because everybody seems to roll their own once they get some basic info and they've made contact. So that happened to me in 2006. I learned to make contact during a week of group encounters. I had two up close and personal encounters. I had a third one that connected with my wife back here in our home, about 15 feet from here, where four little Arcturians visibly showed up in our bedroom there and transmitted waves of love to her and talked to her. So that kind of pulled her in on this too, and she's still with us. And I want to give a shout out to Hollis, who's a little bit under the weather today. Otherwise, she would be with us. And I know she says hello to everybody, those of you who know Hollis. And anyway, that week was life changing when I had my two up close and personal encounters. One which involved literally watching a sphere of about 3 feet diameter materialize out of thin air, 6 to 8 feet away from me, out of thin air. No drama, no noise, no vibration. There it was, part of a larger ship, we were told. And the beings inside were scientists coming here to study human beings. So we had an encounter with them for half an hour. There's a longer story there, but I'll tell that some other time. But that was my first personal experience, not just hearing secondhand experience. Many of you here have gone from being believers in this topic to knowers once something has happened to you that you can't explain away and that maybe you welcome. And I had that during the week at Mount Shasta. So my life changed from that point on. What I saw and experienced in the company of other people defied the laws of physics as I had been taught. I'm a computer science, I'm a left brain math kind of guy. And what I just experienced there with my lying being should not have happened. The amount of energy it would have taken that would have powered the United States for a year, for that little thing to materialize and then dematerialize. So, what do I do with that? A lot of you here have asked that question for yourselves, either consciously or subconsciously, when you have had an experience of this type. What do I do with it? Do I bury it because I can't talk for various reasons? Do I get on a rooftop and shout to the world? I decided to do that. I got on the metaphorical rooftop called the internet and I started organizing people all over the world. That's how I met all of you in one way or the other to tell them about CE5 and to learn about their experiences. So that really just lit me up, and I was off and running. And here I am 20 years later, still doing that. Now, in 2010, fast forward 4 years later from my first encounter, came another branching point for me, which is relevant to what we're doing here. My wife Hollis, who's a really talented, lifelong clairaudient and clairvoyant psychic, started channeling and contacted our star friends. They came through with her. And regardless of what you believe about channeling, I believe in Hollis. And over the years, what we've gained in knowledge from our contacts through her, as well as through me, I'm fairly telepathic, but I don't do it as well and as seamlessly as Hollis. So I thank her for being available always to be the conduit to our star friends. And boy, they've come through. So in 2010, they contacted us for the first time. And I asked them, look, I've got a day job. I'm interested in this topic. And I don't know your plans at the 20,000 foot level, but I'm sure they're there. What can I as an individual do to help full open contact disclosure happen on Earth? What can I do? And they said create as many contact teams as possible in as many places as possible, as quickly as possible. And I understood that. It's all about networking. And because I was a political organizer and social activist when I was young, working in groups and writing and organizing was quite natural to me. So I now segued that skill and experience to this topic here when I was asked by my star friends to create more groups in my own little circle. And let me just say, I'm not the only one who was doing this. I'm sure they were working with many other individuals because that's what you do. You don't rely on one source for anything. You have myriad people working in a network so that if something happens to someone in the network reroutes itself, and there's lots of other places where whatever you're doing can still continue. I suspect that's how our star friends work. What I was asking them was, what can I do? I don't know about what other people are doing, or maybe I came to learn what other people were doing as I corresponded. But I asked, what can I do? And they said, yeah, create those teams in as many places as possible, as quickly as possible, as many teams as possible. So I started doing that, getting on the internet. And I asked them, what's the point of that? And they said, as more humans communicate with us through CE5 and see us, that gives us permission to show up in more cities. They literally said in more cities and more areas. We will be seen more and more. And by the way, that's been happening. And as more people see us, more people will want to do the same communication and give us more permission to show up in more places. And they said this is a virtuous circle where this is an organic growth. This was the beginning of the People's Disclosure Movement, what you hear me talking about. And it's not Costa's disclosure movement, not Bill, not Bob's, not Sally's. It's the people's. It's all of us. So starting in 2010, as I got those requests, I started creating teams as much as I could all over the planet, doing whatever I could, and urging people to become the center of their own movement. The way that I urge all of you here to become the center of the disclosure that's going to be laid up upon the world in about a week from now in an entertainment kind of way. The center is everywhere. The power of it is everywhere, and that's the beauty of it, and that's the safety of it, because we're everywhere. So I asked, what's the point as we grow all these teams? Many more people see this. What's the point? What's the exit point, the end point? And they said, my star friends said, someday so many people will have seen us and believed in our benevolent intentions around the world that after that point, there will be a tipping point. After that point in time, it will be impossible for any institution of authority to ever again cover up our presence. So they were addressing what was then, I can't do the math in my head. It wasn't yet the 80-year cover up. It was something 60s, whatever. They said nobody will ever be able to cover up. It'll be all out there, and you'll just look like an idiot if you're the one saying there's nothing there, move right along now, whether you're a government or some other institution. That tipping point is important, and it's the result of our work. So I asked them, well, when's that going to happen? And my star friend said, that's up to human free will. We don't know the answer to that. Or if they did know the answer, they weren't telling me, and that's okay. I just got to work and got everyone else to do their work. I learned in 2020 when I asked that question again of them, by the way, that tipping point, the timeline, when is that going to happen? And what they said was, oh, that happened last year, 2019. You reached the tipping point. Your people's disclosure movement is now a snowball rolling downhill that cannot be stopped. And that's the image they gave me. They said that they are overjoyed at what we've accomplished reaching that tipping point. It has, and these were the words that I got, was it has exceeded, the movement has exceeded every expectation they had of it, of us. So pat yourselves on the back. We did that, and that brings us up to present time because we, the people, through our disclosure, not through what the governments were hiding and leaking and playing games with and covering up, we did a side a side run on them. Um, Rather than waiting for official disclosure from a president, a pope, a anybody in authority, and I'm not picking on those two, but I'm just saying anybody in authority, and rather than waiting for a press conference saying, "Oh yeah, by the way, they're here, they're clear. We've been talking to them. Sorry about that part where we've been killing you, making you sound like you're crazy, ruining your careers, breaking up your families. Sorry about that." We weren't waiting for that. And I think our star friends knew that the only way to get out of the cover up was to give it over to us. And I just want to thank all of you for everything that you've done in any way, whether it's writing a book, doing your own CE5, talking to a group, uh, exposing this stuff to your family, whatever. There's a million ways where you spread the message that there's this cover up going on, and that yes, we can communicate directly and bypass all the officials. So they don't like that, but there's nothing they can do about it. We're that snowball rolling downhill, and here we are. We prepared the ground for what is happening now. I'm not saying we made that movie or this other movie. If you've ever farmed, you prepare the field, you plow, you seed, you do whatever. I'm not a farmer, and I'm sure I left out a few steps, but I think that the part that we were asked to do was just get the information out. The star people want us to communicate with them. They want us to meet us halfway. Another thing they said in 2010 when they started the People's Disclosure Movement with us was, don't look on us as gods. Look what's happened in your past, how religions have really wound up dividing people and creating a lot of woe and misery, as well as have uplifted a lot of people. I'm not saying it's all bad, but they were saying you don't need another religion on earth. We're here, and they later literally said, we're family. Think of us as elder brothers, sisters, and cousins. And I liked that because in my experience, and probably in all of yours, at some point in your life, if you've met a friend or a family member you didn't know existed, who's really an amazing person, and you've made this contact with them, and they know a little bit more than you, or they have some advice or some mentorship, you go to them like in trust and in collaboration, and you grow, and they guide you. And I think that's the way that, or I know that's the way that that is what's being offered to us, which is in a familial way. And I know there's discussion about negative ETs and things like that and other agendas. I'm not getting into that because the groups that we're in contact with are all that. They've shown us in many ways it's about this love, it's about our evolution, it's about helping us, it's about saving the earth, it's about their concern about how close we are to the edge of blowing everything apart or whatever. But I and they believe that we're going to have a breakthrough as humanity on this earth and all of our life forms rather than a breakdown. The breakdown is close, but the breakthrough is something you haven't heard about yet. And we're part of that. So their family, the ones that we're in contact with, and we've been helping them. So that's a little bit of the background. I will talk a little bit now about the People's Love Alliance, which I haven't talked about much lately, but it's an integral part to the disclosure. And after I give you some information about that, we can begin with Disclosure Day. So thank you everyone for holding on so far so that I can put us all on the same page here. So what's the People's Love Alliance? Well, our star friends have said, you all need to learn to get along. We can't do that for you. We can guide and mentor and show you examples of how we've made progress so that we would go to the stars and teach others. But you all have to do the growth yourselves. Get along through goodwill, through love. That's the only thing that's going to save us in one form or another. So the People's Love Alliance is something you've never heard of because mass media, at least in the US, I grew up here, so I don't know how other countries deal with this. They're maybe better or worse. But at least in the US, with all of the power that Hollywood and the media here does have over the rest of the world, for good or for ill, there's never any news about this. There's very little news about the good stuff that's going on. And I mean mass media. Turn on the evening news in the US here, and you hear fire, earthquake, tornadoes, murders for 20 some minutes. And then they end with on a typical half-hour broadcast of the national news, they'll end with cat gets rescued out of a tree. Wonderful. Isn't that great? What if they reversed that? What if they gave our country, and I'm talking about all countries, if all the media decided instead to give you in that half hour where they reach the national audience, what if they decided to give you 22 minutes or whatever that amount is without commercials of nothing but good news? And I don't mean just cats coming out of a tree. I love cats and bless them. They need to get out of that tree, get rescued. But humans are doing amazing things all over this planet that you just don't hear about. I believe that 99.99% of humanity is born with goodwill in their heart. It gets educated and beat out in many different ways, but I believe that we're sound, and we need to have that reflected to us. Why not have those 22 minutes of stories in some place in the other part of the world where a village gets water because somebody stepped up and made the lives better of a whole village full of people, or someone started a mass movement that changed the politics of a country for the better, and on and on and on. There are millions of acts of kindness at all scales, from little to large, in all areas, going on all the time. We're percolating to a golden age, but who's telling the story? It's not the mass media. What you're getting is fear, division, cower. It's all going to blow up. And yeah, the danger's there. I'm not saying ignore it, but putting our focus on the good stuff for those 22 minutes would really change the psychology of any group or country, in my belief, over a little bit of time. And I encourage all of you to put some thought to that. If you sat down, and some of you don't watch the news or whatever, but let's say anywhere you went, you were getting more of a dose, a nurturing drinking of good news that people are doing. It would change maybe your whole worldview, make you like humanity better, like your neighbor better, like yourself better, whatnot, because you would be inundated by all the great potential that's really happening. And it is happening. If you go to avaaz.org, avaaz.org, they have nearly 70 million people who, for a couple decades, in all countries of the world, have been doing what I've been talking about. They've been doing the small campaigns to make life better here or there in so many different ways. And if you go there and you become a free member, they're not sponsored by any corporation. Nobody is tilting their agenda one way or the other. They're making their donations from just people like you and me. And people like you and me are reporting to the rest of us what they're doing in their community. So I insist that people, if you need a little bit of remedy for the negativity that's out there, a little bit of hope, try avaz.org. You may not agree with some of the political bent of things, but and you may agree with others. But what I'm saying in general, people of goodwill have shown up there because they've discovered this is an organization that is reflecting the good news, and it's not taking money from anybody else other than its members. That's just one example. There's the Cultural Creatives. A book was written by boy, I'm drawing a blank. Sherry Ruth Anderson, and I forgot the gentleman's name, in the late 90s. They identified the values, at least in the US, which they then extrapolated to the rest of the planet, where they said, at least in the US, there were, I think, 65 million people who had values that were life affirming, sustainable, ecologically conscious. And again, you don't hear about that because the evening news is fire, earthquakes, tornadoes, be afraid, be very afraid, and buy what our sponsors are paying for us to tell you. So these cultural creatives are all among us. And until that book was written, where the two authors did the study to come up with the numbers where they said, oh, there's 65 million of them in the US, probably 90 million of them from their extrapolations in the EU. And that, my friends, was a quarter of a century ago. Since then, I'm sure that many more cultural creatives have appeared, so that there's literally tens of millions of them, and these groups overlap. The people that are in avaz.org, culture creatives, as well as other great movements that are humanitarian based, they're all out there. Some overlap, but the takeaway I want to give you is this is the People's Love Alliance. And this is what our star friends are looking at. They're looking at the potential of humanity. humans behaving well for a change. And I'm sure that they're tracking it. And I'm sure that they can see that a lot of us, maybe hundreds of millions, are making an effort to make life better for ourselves, our neighbors, our communities, our planet in so many ways. So that's my optimism that I give to you. And that's what our star friends need. When you ask, when will full open contact occur? I'm sure there are many parameters to be considered that I don't know about, but I'm sure that one is, how are we doing with it? How are we doing with each other? If we're creating more peace with each other on Earth, that gives a better playing field for full open contact to occur. This is us doing our part. They cannot do that for us. They can guide, they can mentor, they can demonstrate, they can plead, whatever they do, but it's up to us. And I just gave you an example of the People's Love Alliance of just two groups there, but I know there's many, many others that represent millions of people. And I want to leave you with one more statistic before getting to Disclosure Day. Going back to the to the People's Disclosure Movement, I forgot this earlier. In 2016, a Dutch group called Glocalities did a serious statistical mathematical research on the internet, asking a lot of questions about extraterrestrial life. They gathered people from a couple dozen countries, a few tens of thousands of people from different cultures, different backgrounds, as you can imagine, represented by a variety of countries, so that they would have somewhat of a snapshot of humanity and its variety in order to do their research. So they did their research. They asked a bunch of questions, they tabulated the numbers, they came up with conclusions about extraterrestrial life and what we believe. The two things that stuck out for me when I read the research was two questions. The first question they asked of their entire research cohort there was, do you believe that extraterrestrial life exists out there? Excuse me, not as a microbe under a rock, but as, full-fledged civilization, right? That can communicate. And 40% of their respondents out and out said, yeah, yeah, we believe that. That's a nice number. I wish it were 100, but 40% in 2016, we'll run with it. So of those 40%, they asked the follow-up question, which is, okay, you believe that intelligence does exist out there. Do you believe we should communicate with it? That's the next step. It's like, do we just wait for them to show up? Are we scared of them? No, do you believe we should communicate, reach out, talk, whatever, telepathize? And 60% of that original 40% said yes. Now, I wish that were 100% too, but I'll take 60% of the original 40%. So you crunch those numbers, which I did, and you extrapolate them to the population of the world at that time, which I think was 7 point some billion people. And I'm not saying this is an exact number, but I just wanted to get a ballpark figure. Based on that research, asking those two questions, what I asked was, okay, if the entire Earth had been their research cohort, what does this look like on a planetary scale? This 40%, this 60%. And I came up with 1.3 billion people who could answer those two questions. Life is out there. Let's talk. 1.3 billion. Now, admittedly, many of those are too busy looking for their next meal to be able to look up and really wonder. Like, we're all blessed, many of us, to, despite whatever other challenges we have in our lives, the reason we're all here, I think, is because some of us, maybe all of us, have had the chance to look up at the stars, to wonder, to make communication, to make contact. And of those 1.3 billion who really believe in what we're doing by answering those questions, they may not have had those opportunities. What's going to happen to them and to the other billions that didn't answer that question or who don't believe, which, by the way, that's still a sizable chunk of humanity, 1.3 billion who are in potential interested in this. But all of humanity is about to experience information that you and I know on a scale that has never before been attempted through entertainment, the entertainment medium. I'm not smart enough to know how that all will fall out. I just know there will be a variety of fallouts from that. And what I'm interested in dealing with are the people, and this is what my star friends told me, was contact those who are ready. There will be those who are ready, whose mind has been open. Maybe they're a little bit angry at the cover up, but maybe they want to make contact. And we are the ones who are at the vanguard here because of our experience and backgrounds, who may be able to help them with the next step. So that's leading into the disclosure day thing, the opportunity that I talked about earlier, which is now we have an idea of the numbers. We're literally in our billions. And by the way, I heard this came from Danny Sheehan, who's a wonderful researcher in this area. Many of you know Danny. Um, I think he said that 50% of adults in the US believe in UFOs. That doesn't necessarily mean they believe they walk among us, but a UFO literally is something unidentified in our skies. So he says that statistic, 50% means that there are people there, half of adults, admitting that there's something there that is of consequence. And I think if most people use the word UFO, they're already thinking, no, these aren't planes we haven't identified yet. They're not drones we haven't identified. These are truly something out of the realm of the box that we're in. So what I'm saying is the numbers have been rising since my childhood, since your childhoods. Filmmakers and others, authors, whatever, have all contributed. Again, this has been a people's disclosure by us talking about the subject, elevating it, dealing with the crazies who want to shut us down, or the people who don't believe us, whatever, just standing our ground and speaking our truth of contact. It's paying off. And I just want to say thank you and just feel the joy of that, because now a world-class director has decided to take information that many of us have been dealing with about the cover-up, put it into a story. Yeah, it's fiction, but I've seen maybe half a dozen interviews of Spielberg just in the last few days with, I mean, he's doing the whole media tour, so he's everywhere. Look it up on YouTube. And despite what his trailers have been showing, because he's someone who knows how to grab an audience, I was disappointed when I saw the first trailer. Even though in 10 days, I think it got 30 million views. 30 million. Who else does that? I don't. I wish I could make a trailer and get that kind of, you know, audience. But that's where the interest was. They go, Spielberg, wow, what's it going to be about? And the trailer was jump cuts, chase music, car crashing through a house. And I'm going, oh my God, what's he going to do with this? This great opportunity. It's another frickin' chase scene, right? What's he going to disclose? It really put doubt in my mind, even though I had seen E.T. and Close Encounters and been lifted like so many people and was expecting that these trailers would show something beatific and beautiful. But no, the trailers are meant to get an audience. They're going bam, 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 bam. Want to see more? Here's trailer number two. Bam, 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 bam. And you're going, okay, I'll give it a shot. And in these interviews, Spielberg doesn't address that directly, but he emphasizes over and over. He says, my movie's about empathy. It's about connection between humans. It's a very human reaction kind of movie. And it's about empathy with NHI. And he comes out very pointedly and says, this is not science fiction, what I've put out. It's fact as I know it. He did his research. He's seen the documentaries, many of the things we've seen, listened to the people. I mean, he did a lot of deep research. And he also asked, I think, some of his actors, as they're developing the characters, to look at the documentaries that you and I have seen, to listen to some of the speakers so that they can get immersed in this. Well, that's what a good actor will do anyway. But in all these interviews, whether he's alone or with the actors, they're basically saying, oh, yeah, it's real. The cover up has been real. And the phenomenon is real. It's not a phenomenon. It's a reality. We believe they're here. Now they don't come out and say we think they're from here. They're Syrians. They're Pleiadians. They didn't go down there. They're just basically saying they're among us. The government has been covering it up. They have bodies. They have reverse engineering. All that you've been learning about the cover up that we know is in that movie. And he even says that his hero steals all those secrets from the gatekeepers and wants to expose them to the world. So there is that storyline. He let that go, that this hero wants to disclose to the world. So if you ever had a movie that is any more present time, not in the future, not in the past, but what's happening right now, what's on everyone's mind, he's nailing it. It's spot on. It's that. and he's a believer. I don't know if he's a knower. Some people say he's had contact. He probably would never admit it. And that doesn't matter to me because what I know so far of Disclosure Day is he says there's humor in it, love, empathy. And of course, the trailers didn't show a whole lot of that. Or if you know where to look at it, they did. But he says it's a raw human movie of everyday people reacting to what's happening to them as they go down this path in the plot of disclosure and of the contact that happens to them. So that's what I know about the movie. I'm looking forward to it. That's what I expect. You may come up with different opinions, different takeaways, and that's fine. I think at least this movie will educate people and elevate the conversation and open a lot of eyes. And this is what the tipping point that I talked about earlier has produced. After the planet sees this movie, they'll either believe that this cover up's been going on, and how many people in many parts of the world don't trust their governments for other reasons anyway. And I'm not anti government, I'm just saying we can do a lot better in a lot of places. In some places, we have. But the distrust of government's already there. And I think this movie will give people more information about this topic and what's been done, at least in the US. And I'm not sure how larger he's going to expand it about other countries. But hey, there's enough that's happened in the US that could have just cover almost anything everybody else has done anywhere to suppress what we know. So it doesn't matter how wide his scope is, but he deals with this in present day, and it's going to open minds and enrage minds and give us the opportunity to help the open minds that show up from this to take the next step. We want to make them knowers. They may become believers, but like many of us, there's nothing like having your own experience and you become a knower. And that's nothing anyone can take away from you. They can debate you on the belief part and call you names and lock you up, but when you know, you know. And that's there with you eternally. So having said all that, thank you all for listening. That is where I want to pick up maybe now and see what your thoughts are, your reactions, any comments. And let me just say, I'm not used to doing the hands up thing, but if you figured out how to raise a hand, the problem is I don't see, if people don't have their video on, I only see the people who I think have it on, and I may not see a raised hand. But I'll give it a try here and see. So far, you're a quiet group. And if you can't find the thing, just do one of those and then we can talk. Jonathan Carley, I see you. I'm unmuting you. Can you unmute yourself, Jonathan? Oh, thank you.
Yes. Hi.
Hello, how
Hello.
are you?
Good. Very good. Also, thank you for organizing this.
You're
And
welcome.
it's clear that you have very good intentions and coming from a place of love and goodwill, which is always great. I guess I just have a personal view on this, and I have been. When I was quite young, when I was 7 years old, I was visited by entities which were I'll just simply describe as malevolent. And so that's been sort of a constant mystery in my life, and I've been working on a long. It's been a long path to understand that, and interplays with my faith and everything, and a whole bunch of different stuff. But I guess I just want to. The way I kind of see this is that I I come at this with a little bit of skepticism. I'd love to hear your perspective, but they've been talking, there's obviously been talk for the past 30 years that disclosure is a year away, right? And so there's that. I think the other thing is that I don't truly believe that. I don't think this is going to be, this movie will be the be all and end all of things. It may be a piece
No.
of it, but
Yeah.
I don't think that the universe or the creator would choose to bring this into focus through ultimately what is part of a Hollywood profit motive. I realize Spielberg has good intentions, but ultimately, this is about making money, and Spielberg is an extremely good marketer, brilliant in that way. And so, there is obviously that part of this thing, but I just take it with a little bit of caution. I think it's going to be probably a very good movie. similar to way Closer Encounters of the Third Kind was and ET. Um, but I think there's a potential here for maybe some truth and maybe some misinformation or something that he's been fed. And I think we should also keep in mind that there is, I believe, a power structure in this world that is tapped into a form of malevolent energy that is working to control things. And so, I don't totally rule out the possibility that there's part of that involved with this. So that's just my perspective. I have an open mind, but at the same time, I'm a little bit skeptical, and that's kind of my view on things, and maybe it's a little different than other folks, but I very much appreciate your views, and this is great to have this type of a forum where everybody can, or I can say what I think, and people can react. So thank you very much,
No,
and God
thank you
bless.
for,
Thank you.
and same to you. Thank you for your honesty and your directness with that. And believe me, what you just said is on the mind of other people too. You're not the only one. There are obviously a variety of opinions about this. I had to look at what you've talked about, knowing that other people have had negative experiences and knowing that the power structure's there, um, and had to decide for myself what's true or what do I believe is true and how do I deal with it. I decided there's some truth to that. A power structure that's been hiding the cover up, I think, is really global, and they've been covering up other things as in the political realm, and I won't get into that. The world has been discovering there's been a lot of shenanigans going on. A lot's being revealed, I believe, that has been hidden from the world, not just about this topic, but disclosure about what money has really done to control people, to traffic people, to create wars and all that. So I'm with you on the thing about a power structure. Now, how does one bring that out? The power that's left is the people, people power. We just saw again in the political realm, and I hope I'm not stepping on any toes, but look what happened in Hungary. There was clearly a totalitarian government there, and people rose up through the vote, through mostly peaceful means, and they overturned that. And there are many examples in history and in recent history and in the history of while I've been on Earth where people power again has neutralized and overturned the controllers, the overlords, who want to be that way forever. This topic is no difference. That's why I think the People's Disclosure Movement, we have the power, and we have to realize that. We are literally in our hundreds of millions, and there may be only handful up at the top, yeah, who have been controlling economies and through Hollywood giving other viewpoints that are not as positive. All that's gone on. Um, I am someone of goodwill and optimism, but it's a cautious optimism because I see human nature for what it is, and some of that human nature has had extra planetary help. But their time is ending because we're waking up. This particular movie, I believe, is a step in the right direction. I just think it's going to have a wider influence than anything has happened before. I'm not saying it's the end, the be all influence. From what I've seen of Spielberg, and I'm not a mind reader, but the energy that comes from him and the guidance I've gotten spiritually about his motives, yeah, he wants to make money. He has to. It would be nice if we lived in a world where that wasn't the case. And someday I hope we have a world like that where we can create freely and not have a profit motive. I don't begrudge him having a profit motive, making money so that he can make the next movie that maybe will help out or whatever. He wants to make a Western next. He hasn't done that. He comes out and says, "Oh yeah, I want to make a Western. I'm working on one." So, God bless him for that, I guess. But as for right now, Hollywood has done a dastardly job. They've been part of the fear, fear, fear. You're all crazy, little green men and stuff. Be afraid, be very afraid. There's no denying that. But what I'm saying to you, Jonathan, and to others is we have the opportunity to acknowledge that, but to move forward. We own the future. We own the future. We may have been victims of the past, and there's still those who are trying to victimize us, but their power is ebbing because every single one of us who awakens and awakens the next person, who makes contact and engages the galactics who are positive and willing to help, every single one of us has this power in our hands, and we're literally in our millions. And the opportunity that this movie gives us is to awaken more others who might be open to us. And I'm not saying everybody will be, and there will be conflicting opinions, but I'm focusing on the ones who are going to say, "Oh, what's next? Can you tell me how to do that? Or what do you think about that?" I've encountered that for 20 years of doing that, all kinds of opinions. And I've only been able to concentrate in my networking for the People's Disclosure Movement on the people who want to come and learn. Others who want to debate, I don't debate anymore. It's like they said to us the other day when I asked them in a communication, do you have a message, my friends, the cosmic friends, for the world as this movie drops? They came back very firmly and said, we're here, we're clear, get used to it. Not in a menacing way, I'm just being a little dramatic, but that's the way I took it was like, yeah, okay, that's the team I'm on. Um, the other team, they're heading to their B players and their C players, and they're all defecting, and the whistleblowers are coming out. Their power is ebbing. And if you watch the evening news, you may not believe it, but go to the People's Love Alliance, look for positive news, seek it out, and you will see a lot more hope of where we're taking over. Like I said, we own the future, and that's my answer to you is it's in your hands how you want to deal with this. Despite how you and I may disagree or agree on what's been done in the past, I'm not focusing on that anymore. I did. I went down a lot of rabbit holes over the years, so I know what I'm talking about as far as kind of my evolution. And again, I had to decide where do I fit in all this. I want to play for the positive team because they're here. I want to. They're the winners. Spiritually, I believe that love will eventually not conquer. Love will be revealed to all that that's what we are. And that's the team I'm on. And whether people call me naive or whatever, I don't care because I have a community now that's, we all believe very much like that, even in our diversity. And we're working for the future with what we know. Just the act of you sitting down in your living room or wherever you want to go, in the beach, in the forest, in nature, and making contact, you're doing something that's not only revolutionary right now, it's evolutionary. It's the next step. We're becoming cosmic humanity. And Danny Sheehan talks a lot about this. And I've learned a lot about his thoughts from his thoughts about that. We're becoming cosmic humanity. So I urge you, Jonathan, try to take a step into finding where you might belong into moving forward in the future, despite some of your correct beliefs that there's been a lot of crap that has been done. And we're seeing the results of it. It's all coming up now. We have to see it before we can do something about it. So sorry for the long answer, but thank you for your thoughts on that. I think next was Kevin. I see you there, Shecky, so I'll get to you next. Please remind me. Can you unmute yourself there, Kevin? There you go.
Can you hear me
Um,
now?
yeah, I can hear you. Thank you.
Okay,
How are you?
good. It's good to see you, Costa, and thank you for doing this. I have a few questions. Uh, First one related to the movie itself. It was you may have pretty much addressed this already, but is there a negative side to Spielberg's movie? Like people saying, if it's a Spielberg movie, it must be fictional. Does does it have like that that backward connotation of maybe making people say it can't be real if it's a Spielberg movie?
Ah, that's a legitimate question. Uh, People who don't want to face the truth of what's in the movie, and that's my value judgment truth. If they don't want to face what they've seen or consider it, they can all, the ultimate back away from that is it's just a movie. He wrote the story, by the way, with his longtime collaborator. So you can clearly say, this is Spielberg. He's got the money, he's got the talent. He made a movie. It ain't true. I'm going back to my life. That's totally legitimate. And I think a lot of people may do that. So I agree with you. That's a good thing to consider. But I'll go back to what I was saying. There will be a lot more people who will say, oh my God, I heard my crazy cousin talking about that years ago, and now it's up here and it looks more believable. And by the way, even though this is in the political realm with a lot of people, which a lot of people don't agree with. It's nonetheless true that in the US Congress, I can't speak for other countries because I don't have the time to get into the politics of all of that, though I would like to. But in the US Congress, something is happening where there have been committee hearings, and I'm sure many of you are aware of that, where David Grush and other whistleblowers with credibility have come out and said, yeah, we've got bodies, we've been reverse engineering things. So, what I'm saying is the people who are saying this is just fiction, wait a minute, get on YouTube, look at these hearings, and you see real life people who have been threatened and have still come forward with courage saying, yeah, this is true, and here's facts. And they've done 3 hearings now in the US Congress. And there's no one in the world who doesn't have a computer who cannot access unless their country's shutting them down. Gotta be putting all these qualifiers on it, but this is the world we live in. But these congressional hearings in the United States are available to anyone who has the means to see them. And those are credible. Um, I'm frankly surprised that they happened in this time because I've never been looking for the disclosure to come from the government critters because they're the ones I've been railing against, going, People's Disclosure Movement, that's us. We're doing an end around the rest of you. I've come to the point where I now acknowledge that there's some value in the political realm there with these congressional hearings and people with credibility coming out to say what they know, even though they may couch it in terms of threat, threat, threat. We don't know what's in the skies. Might be Russia, might be China, might be someone we don't know about, or it might be from somewhere else. At least they have the kind of credibility that some people need. Some people need to hear from authorities like this is true. Um, Many of us probably, I'm hazarding a guess, are not those people. We're pretty much probably free spirits who do the research, make up our own minds, and we're not letting someone, tell us what to do. But there are a lot of people who do need that word of authority, and it's been happening in the US Congress. So that's okay in the political realm because some of those people will be ones you now encounter. That happened to me a little while ago where a friend told me, I had a neighbor across the street who always thought this was crazy. And then this neighbor came over to me, saw me raking leaves in my yard, and said to me, Hey, about that congressional hearing, I guess that stuff is real. And that right there is an example of someone whose mind was open just enough. They needed to hear it from an authority, and they were walking over to their neighbor who's about to give them instructions on doing CE5 if they want to do their own contact. So that has opened things up. And again, that's the audience that we're looking for here. Can't be responsible for all the other reactions. I don't have the time or the energy to debate. I think there's enough people that are wanting more information genuinely that we can provide that it's going to be pretty busy enough. I don't know if I answered your question or addressed everything, Kevin. I hope I have.
Yeah, I think we just have to hope that there's a net positive
Yeah.
upside to it, I'm hearing it from a politician. Is also a mixed bag. It's like a lot of things that come out of politicians' mouths you really can't believe. So,
Well,
my other
yeah.
questions were about the star people themselves, and um, I wanted to ask: do you know from your interactions with them answers to questions like how did they get here? I mean, was it space travel, time travel, interdimensional jumping? Did they come from the center of the Earth, or non-corporeal travel? Something else.
Oh,
How did they even get here? My
I
physics mind wants to know.
yeah, I know you. I know your physics and my computer science mind wants to go, okay, what kind of programs did you use and what did you build? You know what? I haven't asked any of those questions. I think we can, Hollis and I know we'll get answers. She has experienced once where they showed her in a clairvoyant, inner kind of way, their consciousness comes together. They all decide together where they want to go anywhere in the universe. They blend their consciousness into one thing. They go into some transmedium place. They pop out where they want to be, and then they open up to become individual consciousness again. So they've traveled together with an agreement, used this means, whatever that is, got there, and then there they are. They're individuals again in a group. Very vague. There's no physics, there's no formulas, which I would like. And as a matter of fact, you might know that when my wife Hollis was visited by the Arcturians in our bedroom here, waves of love coming off of them. So it was not a fear thing, it was a surprise thing. She asked them after she was finished being stunned by their presence that shouldn't be there in our bedroom. She asked them, where are you from? But then she admits the better question would have been, how'd you get here? 'Cause she's an engineer too. She didn't ask that. So to your point, I will ask that question. Remind me next time our paths cross whether I did, and I'll give you an answer if I have remembered. And keep in mind, different groups have different technologies. One size probably doesn't fit all, but everything that you mentioned there, Kevin, all the possibilities are things I've heard of that as and people speculated. So it's a legitimate question, and I don't have an answer to that.
I appreciate
Okay,
it. My last thing I wanted to ask is kind of what's
I need to
what is
give other
their
people some time
yeah,
here. Okay.
I just want to know what their motivation is. What does
Ah,
our future look like with the star people in it? Are they here to teach us, to make us pets? What are we?
well, that
Yeah.
begs the question of the different races that are here and their motivations. I suspect, because I haven't run into them, that there are those who visited, as there are locally entities, if you believe in vibration at the different levels and dimensions here on Earth, never mind out in the stars. Um, if you're a sensitive or psychic, you have to protect yourself against the local negative influences because there's everything's layered together, right? I don't think it's any different with the races coming here. There may have been those with not so great intentions, but what we've been shown is by far the preponderance of the numbers of those who are here. The intentions are to help us take the next step and not blow ourselves to smithereens. And by the way, they have said very clearly multiple times that they will not allow a global nuclear war to happen. I don't know about a local one. I got to ask that question, kind of drill down a little. But as far as a global nuclear war, they said flat out, we know how to stop it and we will. And there's some evidence that they've been shutting down missiles before.
Okay.
Great. Thanks, Costa.
So,
He's a sincere guy. Oh,
so
Jimmy, yeah.
can someone please
I'm
mute
gonna
yourselves?
reboot my computer to see if it
Can
works.
can you
Oh, why
mute
would it
yourself,
not work?
please? Hello,
Have to
Dr.
do,
Mark?
then I'll see how the system works. The authenticator.
whoever's on there,
Oh, oh.
I may have to mute
Oh, yeah.
everybody.
It's Mark Smith. Can you mute
No,
Mark Smith?
I can't
yeah,
see
she
him.
did.
Mark Smith, can you mute yourself? Oh, there we go. Thank you. Well, no, that didn't help.
Well, thank you,
Okay,
Costa.
Shecky,
I'm going to mute myself now.
Greetings and thank you. It's been a long time, 23 years since I drove you and Hollis back from the Kucinich meeting in Marin to San Bruno. I see you've made great progress on your journey and I applaud that. I applaud your extremely positive attitude. However, I don't share your optimism about the hearings or the movie. The credibility of these people to me are all suspect. I've done the research and documented it in many articles. I'll leave you with this. Let me ask you, are you aware that Spielberg is directly and intimately connected to the Epstein elite? Are you aware of that?
I would imagine connected because nobody at that level with the circles they travel in will not run into other people to travel in those same
Well,
circles.
he's
Now,
part of the mega group,
okay,
MEGA, that
okay.
includes Wexner and Lauder and Bronfman and all these very wealthy people who are directly and intimately supporting what's going on in the Middle East. So I'll leave it at that. But uh, please be open to the possibility that we are looking at a highly sophisticated psychological operation with the intention and motivation to present a narrative that will support a specific ideology, namely one that would support a particular religious group and their actions in the world today. And I could go on for hours on this, but I'll spare the group. But I want to revert back to you. And once this whole thing is over, I encourage you to keep going with your people's disclosure movement, because I'm a populist. But the credibility that you're so comfortable alluding to with Grudge and these other people need to be reconsidered. So I'll stop because I'm in a library and I'm gonna sign off.
Okay. No, thank you, Richard. Um, I knew that would be your because I've seen some of your writings, and I appreciate hearing from all sides uh, because this is a time when things we haven't known do come out. I'm going to let time be, for me, time show what happens. I want to see what the public's reaction is to the movie, regardless of those behind the scenes and what their motivations are. I want to see really what the movie presents. And what matters to me most, again, in a populist kind of way, and I'm with you on that, is how will people react? Because in the end, this will be up to us. If he is a member of the elites and they have other agendas, that may not be how the movie lands with a lot of people. He may be fueling in a positive way something. If he's really trying to do something negative, it may backfire. There's always that possibility. I've seen lots of stuff done in the political realm where the blowback is terrible to those who thought that they were going to get away with something.
Okay.
So anyway, let's just see. It's in our hands. What are we going to do with it? You know, it is the People's Disclosure Movement. It's not Spielberg's. It's not anybody else's. Okay. Next, I saw. Trying to get the hands here. Ingrid, did your hand go up? And I see you, Kevin Briggs, next. You're next. Okay. Hi, Ingrid.
Hi, Gus. My God, you strike me as such a wise, wonderful wizard for this information and this download that we're going to be getting internationally about Spielberg, who is a genius, whatever his particular bias is. He's still opening up this conversation, which is so profound because disclosure is happening now, and this is beyond ET 101. So I want to just thank you for your work.
You're
And
welcome.
two wonderful my sources that keep me positive and engaged and open-minded and optimistic. Are you familiar with Dr. Jim Garrison?
The Jim Garrison that's working with NPI.
Well, he's a
Or
Ubiquity University. He was
he's
part
got
of
his
the
own, yeah, he's
congressional
got the
hearing.
university. Yeah, I'm familiar with him. I've
Oh my,
exchanged maybe two emails, but that's it.
yeah,
Nothing
but he's
profound.
on the cutting edge of
Mm.
all of this. So he has a beautiful podcast called Humanity Rising, and he's in charge of Ubiquity University, which is giving advanced degrees in ET studies and UAP, master level at PhD, accredited. Now,
That's
is that
great.
a major mind shift?
It is. Its time has come, right?
Yes.
What,
And
what the degree will be Doctor of ET Studies? Will that be like not an MD? Will be an ETD or something? I don't know. Just asking.
it's happening, though. It's really happening. And the other guy I really love is Dr. Jeffrey Mishlow. He does
Mhm.
New Thinking Aloud. He's all in the paranormal, the supernatural, advanced metaphysics. So we really have a lot of wonderful resources just to keep ourselves centered and open and curious about what's happening in this particular timeline, which is quite radical. And lastly, I just want to say I've been exploring ETs because I listen to so much Art Bell and Coast to Coast, but it's all part of the equation of who we are, what we are, why we are, how we are, this whole evolutionary cosmic connection. But my affirmation is I'm an intergalactic human with cosmic consciousness, and I'm just so happy to be part of this type of community. So thank you for your work.
No, thank you for being part of the community. It's yeah, it's one person among millions of one other people. I don't know if that came out right, but we all think we're just one and powerless, and then we need to see us in our aggregate. And by the way, that goes back to the what I was talking about, the culture of creatives. The reason the two scientists wrote that, where they identified 65 million people in the US with all these basically humanistic, humanitarian values that they were putting into practice, their mantra was kind of like, it's not just you and 10 of your friends. So, and here's the numbers to prove that. So that also applies to us. It's not just us and 10 of our friends who, get together, do our CE5 or watch a documentary together or read a certain book or whatever. It's about to be bigger and we need to see each other. And that's one of the reasons for this. So thank you. I promised Kevin next. Okay, there we go. Hi,
Hi,
Kevin.
Costa.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Doing well.
I think Janelle was before me,
Oh, I'm
but
sorry,
never mind.
Janelle.
It's okay. It's okay. No one.
Okay, then you're
I just
next,
wanted to
Janelle.
thank you for what you're doing, Costa. And the I get a lot of the similar information that you receive, and it sort of verifies it. It gives me confirmation as well because we're getting it from two sources. But I just wanted to touch on something. I think I'm looking forward to the film because I think it will open up avenues for people to talk about it. With whichever side of the coin you are on, we will be discussing it, and that's always a good thing. So I'm looking forward to watching. I do like Spielberg's movies; they are very entertaining at the best, you know. So I'm looking forward to that. I just like to bring people's attention here because there's quite a few people here to Ray Hernandez's book, A Greater Reality. There are 6 volumes of this book. That's A Greater Reality.
Yeah.
6 volumes of it, and you can get them all free as a PDF file at agreaterreality.com. So I thought that was important for the readers and the people who are watching here today. And volume 5, a compilation of chapters by experiences. So it gives another perspective from other people's area. And then the last thing, to keep it short, free information from the exo conscious community. They now have drafted a planetary constitution which outlines the human sovereignty as we are moving towards becoming a galactic species. So we need that. And I was requested to draft a mandated protocol to receive our star families, which I have done. And there's 3 parts to it. The protocol to receive the star families with a paragraph, a protocol for peaceful open contact, and then the final part is signed and witnessed, in witness thereof, the undersigned being authorized by their birthright as born of this earth. So the request will be coming from the citizens of Earth. So it's really just reiterated what you're saying, Costa, but within other groups who are covering the similar areas. So I think it's important to point these things out. And I'm always after, when there's things that are free, I always like to share them because sometimes people charge exorbitant prices for these books and things. But if you can get this information for free, I'll put the links in the chat and then people can do their own research if they're interested. So thanks
Okay.
again, Costa. I do appreciate what you do.
I appreciate what you do. And thank you for all those resources. Um, I'm just one person doing this, and that's why I rely on people like you who, I mean, there's so much going on. People like you who are able to bring in stuff that, validates or expands what I'm talking about, or, makes it or goes against it or whatever. At least we're talking about the topic. And I appreciate that, Kevin. And that reminds me, in further get-togethers like this that I hope to do, I'm going to give opportunities to people here in the network to do what you just did, Kevin. Talk, or at least publicize, promote a book, a video, something you're working on, or something you've heard about that would benefit everyone else. Because that kind of sharing, we're just exponentially going to increase our group knowledge and maybe group activity. Also, that would give an opportunity for people not just to promote a book, but to ask for resources. If you're someone who's trying to create something and you have a need of some kind, whether it's money or volunteers or some other kind of information, I would hope that you would be able to speak up like Kevin just did and say, hey, I'm doing this. Is anyone out there able to help or interested to join me? And then via the chat box here, you could trade information and get in contact with one another. So that's the kind of service I want to perform for the community because the synergy of our power is not just at a soul kind of level where we're crowdsourcing this in a multidimensional way, but in a practical way, we can help each other with projects, whatever help is needed. So moving forward, that's what I hope to do with some of these get-togethers, and you'll be hearing about it if you're on my email list. I'll be publicizing these Zooms again, and if you're not, please sign up at etletstalk.com. It's for free. So Janelle, finally, I apologize, but
No worries.
how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for doing this. This is a lot of fun. I do have a couple questions. So, You said that you want us to help people become knowers, but I myself am only on the level of a believer. Like I suspect it's true, but other than seeing just a little star UFO in the sky in 1992, I've never had face-to-face experience. How can I help a person become a knower when I myself am in the category of, I suspect this is true. I believe what you're saying, but I can't prove it. And I'm sure, but I have never had a face-to-face contact.
Well, face to face, I hear your question. It's excellent. And I should expand on the definition. Nor does it mean face to face. To my knowledge, I've never, well, I had a face to face contact with a ship. And actually, I believe maybe with an entity at one point, but I'm still working on that one. Nowhere doesn't necessarily mean personal and direct, like right in your physical space. In the broad view, knower, you're already a knower. You just said to me that you saw something in the sky that sounds like you may have believed you could see it, and the reason you were just telling me that you saw it and that you're relating this means that you've already dismissed the fact that it might be something natural. So in your mind, correct me if I'm wrong, it's already something anomalous that you're hanging on to. And that's it. You're a knower. Something happened to you. Um, Again, it may not be dramatic like other people, but it's yours, and it's a start. And you can relate that story to someone like, I saw something that behaved this way and that way, and I know it wasn't a plane because planes do this, satellites do that, planets look like this, and this was not doing that. Whatever narrative that is that you have, it's yours. And if it's making you feel like this is mine, then relate it to someone, and they can take it the way they want. Now, I will say too, once you can try more of the contact protocols. On my website, I have 7 steps there for doing CE5, which I recommend to people. And knowing that everyone who comes and uses those steps is going to still what's the word, tweak them in some way that they like. And that's all fine, that's all expected. But what I do ask is that whatever is done with those 7 steps, that it be done in a gesture and in a state of goodwill, of love, of high vibration, of welcome, because that's what they're responding to. Yeah, you can come at them with different things and you may not get any results at all. We've seen that happen. But no matter how you change those 7 steps, that's what I ask is this is from the heart. I think that if you do practice that, sooner or later, you will get more than just a little light in the sky. Because in my 20 years of doing this with groups and from hearing other people, there are so many different ways they make contact. I love the lights in the sky still. That's the engineer part of me that's going, how do they do that? Like what's it taking, to maneuver that way? But I remind myself there's a consciousness. Either that's a conscious craft or some consciousness of flying that. And that's what's really cool. And that consciousness can go into your thoughts because we have a lot of example of they know what we're thinking, they know exactly where we're looking, what we've been talking about, and they will do something that underlies what our conversation has been. That's happened to so many people. So my point there is they have creative, many ways to connect with you. I've had smartphones sitting next to me that I turned off while I was doing communication stuff with them. And the phone turns itself on and starts playing some cosmic related song that I've had in my playlist on the phone that I haven't listened to in years. And there's a song blaring forth that and I'm going, okay, thank you. Like, I don't know how you did that, but dreams, telepathy, open yourself up and realize it's not just lights in the sky, but be aware of your environment and of yourself. A touch on the shoulder, there's no one there, little things. And I know this is, sometimes you may not be able to tell this, well, is this paranormal? Is this just earth-based stuff? Is this my grandpa who decided to come through? I don't know. Maybe it is. Ask questions. If something happens to you, is like start a conversation. Like, who is this? I've prepared myself. I've done my ritual. I'm only allowing wonderful beings of light and love to be around me, which all of us should do all the time anyway, even in our daily lives. So having protected yourself that way, then you can start that conversation and say, okay, I felt that, or thanks for that song on my phone. What's next? Let's talk. That's why we did ET Let's Talk. Thank you, Hollis. for coming up with that years ago. And that's the whole point. It's conversation. It's the family thing, right? It's not just us telling each of these stories. They want a relationship because the more of us there are who already know what that's like to have when more full open contact comes, and I believe it'll come in phases, there'll be more of us kind of prepared already, like, oh, we've been talking, nice to meet you, let's have coffee. Oh, you don't drink coffee. Okay, let's have some of that. Um, anyway, I hope you get my point. Look for contact in a lot of ways, and that just increases the possibility that something will show up for you that makes you happy and makes you go, "Oh God, that was cool." Let's do more and let's keep talking. I hope that answered your question or helped you a little bit.
Yes, thank you. You're right. I do know what I saw, and that would not be anything normal. You're right. I am a knower. Thank you.
You're abnormal. Congratulations. Join the group. The water's fine. I see Peggy raised hand here. I will try to get Peggy. Hi, Peggy. Is that you?
Yes, it is me.
Hiya.
Costa, thank you for doing this. It's absolutely fascinating. I particularly appreciate your perspective on being believing versus knowing. And if I understood correctly, our first speaker that you called on today, Jonathan, I think his name was,
Mhm.
I think that Jonathan was telling us that he had the experience of knowing that sometimes a presence of this type could be malevolent. So as we open ourselves to these encounters, particularly if we pursue the CE5, do you have any advice for us just in case we happen to encounter a malevolent presence? What should we do? How should we handle that? Is Am I making sense here with this
Oh,
question?
yeah, yeah. I've not experienced that, so I will. My disclaimer is, from my experience, I don't have an answer, and there should be answers to that. From my beliefs, what I've read or heard from other people, uh, number one, in your heart, you would have to accept and just know that whatever it is you're encountering, there is something greater than that, that it will run away, likely in fear from, because that's what it deals with in fear. Whatever that something is, whatever your world or cosmic view is, whether it's a church or a saint or an avatar or another cosmic being, you call on that for that help. That's what I would do. And you know what? I just realized I did have an experience once in my youth where a black, I was in a deep, dark space anyway, and I know I attracted it to me. I mean, no two ways about it. But I saw a ball of black negative energy just entering my bedroom door and approaching me, and I knew the outcome was not going to be great, but I felt it. And at that time, I was into, Christian thoughts, so I was using the Lord's Prayer. I don't do that anymore, but it was what I gave power to, and I do believe in masters and ascended masters and all that. So I was calling upon that in that moment. It backed away and it dissolved. And I know that sounds like a cliche, and it sounds like maybe too simple of an answer, but it's the best I can do. Is whatever there is something greater, because ultimately I believe the universe is love, and that kind of power cannot be denied. And that power, if you ask, will be there for you. Um, I would like to have some evidence from people out there that maybe have done that kind of thing, because that would give me a little bit more agency to talk more knowledgeably about it with evidence, rather than just the experience I had, which I believe in and I know, and it was great and it helped me. But hearing that from other people would be good, who've been able to dissolve or protect themselves from something that did seem like an imminent threat. I don't know if that helped you at all, but
Oh, thank you. Thank
yeah.
you. And I think also when you were responding to Janelle, you mentioned just putting in your protections automatically. I'm sure that
Yeah, yeah,
many of us begin our day with
yeah.
protective kinds of thoughts. So making sure never to skip that is
Yeah.
probably a good idea. Thank you.
Yeah, you know what? That was so obvious to me. Thank you for calling that out because again, that's so obvious to me. Like, you begin with that, and if anything is going to break through that, I don't know how it could, because if you got some great juju that you've been building up over time, and your guides are there and all that to begin with your day, I suspect that the odds that something negative can get through all of that are minuscule.
Well, I just think about when I was a kid,
Yeah,
and your parents train you. And so you get in the car, you lock the door. You're not paranoid. You don't expect somebody to, break into your car and come and
yeah.
grab you, pull you out. But you just lock your door. It just becomes sort of an automatic um, kind of thing. And maybe it's like that. I think of it, that's the way I think of it. The
I
putting,
like that because it's something that's common to all of us. We all get into cars and we lock doors. So,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you for that, for pointing out the obvious, and we should all live our lives that way.
I
Okay.
just wondered if you had any extras. So,
Oh,
like
yeah.
if you encounter a malevolent presence, run for your life, or that, whatever. But if you
No,
come
man,
across
I call in the spiritual cavalry, wherever they're coming from. Because I don't know who's out there, terrestrial or extraterrestrial, but I
right,
need you now.
yeah,
And I have I'll give you one more example for me where I didn't even ask, but I was protected. And I'll bet a lot of you have this story. Um, I was in a negative space going through a divorce, and I'd stopped. This is before cell phones were ubiquitous, and I had to stop and use a payphone to try to get through to the partner I was divorcing from. And this partner on the phone call, I'm sitting there in a public call, in an urban area, street cars, and it was actually a gas station that had a pay booth, a payphone booth. Remember those?
yes,
So I'm sitting there talking, and my then soon-to-be ex-wife was really shaking me down for money, which I had already been giving. So I was coming from a point of, I'm justified. Why are you doing this for me? I'm writing you a check this month. I'm taking the kids halftime. I mean, in my mind, I was doing everything that I could to be the good guy for my kids and the family in any way I could. And I'm getting shaken down for money and over the phone. I look over my shoulder, and approaching me is this young man. Like, I hadn't even seen where he came from, but he came to about 6 feet away from me, and he's asking for bus fare money. He's trying to shake me down for money, and it's not quite menacing, but his hands are in his pocket. And I'm aware of all this, not that it happens often, but he's asking for money, and I'm politely saying, no, I can't help you because I'm not going to give into that because I know it's a shakedown. He's going to use it for something else. It's not bus money. But I'm sitting there as he's talking to me, and part of me is thinking, what comes next? I see his hands in his pocket. I'm no great physical fighter. If this guy pulls a knife on me or something, I'm going to wind up on the losing end of that, right? Not a martial artist. As soon as I thought that, I saw his head turn to the right, like something had gotten his attention. And about 30 feet away, out of nowhere, I had not seen this guy, was a cop, a policeman in uniform, a parking cop who was giving parking tickets, but he was the in the gas station. He wasn't getting gas. I don't know what that person was doing there, but he was in uniform. And this gentleman who was shaking me down saw the cop, just saw the uniform. That's all he needed to see. Turned around and he walked away. And I looked back, and the cop was gone.
wow,
Okay. I didn't make that up. I went from a believer to a knower there.
yeah,
It's like someone was looking out for me. Thank you, whoever that was. I don't have a name, a label, but you knew what was going on. You showed up when I needed you. And so that gives me faith. And that is what I think faith does move those mountains. And
yeah,
faith protects you from shakedowns.
yeah,
I wish it would
yeah.
happen for everybody. Okay, thank you, Peggy. I
Thank you
see
so much.
Evie, is that pronouncing that? Am I pronouncing that right? EVG? I'm
Yes, it's Evie.
Evie. Oh, okay, close.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
go
thank
ahead.
you so much, first of all. I just wanted to touch a little bit up on what Janelle was talking about. I did go with, I believe her name was Allison, in one of the CE5 group meetings that were in Santa Monica.
Oh yeah.
I did go to several of those many years ago. A lot of times we didn't really see anything in the sky, but there were very memorable things that happen. Like we used to sage to cleanse prior to meditation and everything. And I remember specifically this one time where we all saged and she had put the sage in a bowl. The sage was completely off. We were all with our eyes closed, meditating, listening to the tones that she usually plays. And I don't know why I opened my eyes and I looked down at the bowl that was right next to me. The sage had been off for a long time. And there was this blue light. I can't even describe to you the type of blue that was just moving around inside the bowl. And I called out to everybody and I said, "Look, what's that in the bowl?" And within seconds, the bowl was just completely engulfed in flames. It
Wow.
just it lit up on its own, and we were just so appreciative of what we were seeing, because like I said, the sage had been off for quite a long time. And I know that it was them. They were giving us a sign, we're here with you. They weren't exactly seen in the sky, but that's pretty much what we saw. And I think that the group got really happy and stuff that we saw. I mean, there were different things that we experienced while we were up there. But we had another meeting the following day. And this is kind of touching up on what Peggy was talking about. I personally didn't experience anything. It was a very small group. For some reason, I couldn't stay awake during the meditation. Um, but they experienced, and I guess they came in contact with entities that were not so benevolent. I personally didn't see anything. And they thought I did. So everybody was just like thinking she knows about it, or assuming that I knew what they saw as well, but I didn't. And unfortunately, I think it spooked them so much that that was the last meeting that we had.
Oh.
But I do kind of believe that maybe, inside of me, I kind of believe that, it's just the vibration, the frequency that we're on. I know that one of the persons that experienced that was my ex, and his vibration was not exactly the highest. And he was one of the people that also experienced that.
Hmm.
And I don't know, I think they put me to sleep or something. Somebody was really
Oh.
looking out for me because I could not stay awake and I did not have the same experience that they did.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's I have no words except I believe you that they made you sleepy for that.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
Okay.
it's super exciting that all of those meetings have always been so exciting to
Yeah.
me. Just being out there and with a group of like-minded people with the same basically the same goal. And it's just so hard. I'm with you where I'm done debating with people whether they believe it or not. If it is somebody that believes and they want to know more, I will speak to
Yeah.
them about the different experiences that I've had. Ever since I was a child, the first thing I saw was like Janelle, the little star in the sky that was moving way too fast, and that kind of sparked my interest. Back in 2011, I saw a UFO so close that I could see inside of it
Mm.
was like the little dome. I could see the little kind of like an orange hue light inside. I didn't see who was inside or anything, but from that point on, it was like they came close enough to me to give me downloads and stuff like that, where it just opened everything up for me. And from that point on, it was just like I've constantly had contact. I did have contact here, like personal, but I was with somebody that got really spooked,
Mm.
and they just, once they know somebody's
Yeah.
fearful, they try to, okay, we don't want to scare you, so we're going to kind of stay away. But I did see them walk. I saw their little long legs go in front of the car. I walked over to the car and I was like, hey, I'm here. I know you're here. And the other person was scared. So it was like, and that wasn't planned at all. It was just me. Hey, look at that star over there. It's not a star. That's really a ship. And then we saw that and the person
Yeah,
got
wow.
scared.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm glad you relate that because I've experienced this in my groups too. People come with the best of intentions. I think very few times has someone entered a group to make contact who was there to to be a downer or anything. I think people come
Mhm.
thinking they can handle it, and then it turns out they can't. So sometimes the compassionate thing that's done by the star people, like you say, they pull away uh, because of the fear. And we may encounter more of that as people come to us whose minds open up. Good intentions, believing, and you can ask them, they'll look you in the eye and say, no, no, I'm ready. You know,
Mhm. Oh yeah.
I'm good. I'm good with it. Come on down. And then you find out later that they weren't in some way. And
Oh
I say
yeah.
this out of compassion. They genuinely didn't know till it happened. So, and that's
Yeah.
fine. You learn something there. If you're that person, you learn something about
Mhm.
yourself. And if you're honest, there's something to explore. And if you're their friend, you can ask, hey, let's talk this through. What is, the process of this? What were you afraid of? What might happen? You can do a therapy kind of thing that would be really beneficial to them. It's an opportunity there. But
Oh
okay,
yeah.
thank you for relating that because
No, thank you.
we'll encounter the fear, and I encountered it myself.
I did
And
too.
so I can't judge when other people react in a way that wouldn't be fearful to me, but it triggered them
Oh
somehow.
yeah,
So
absolutely. It's
I
the
have,
energy that's felt that it's like, sometimes it's kind of scary because I did that too, where they did come into my room. I felt their energy. There was a pop on my TV and I felt them and I was like, I grabbed my baby and I said, no, no, wait, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. There was
oh,
another pop on the TV and I didn't feel it anymore. And since then I haven't felt it anymore either. So I kind of got mad at myself because I was like, I thought you, but it's like you said, we have good intentions, but until we're in that situation and we actually feel that energy, we don't know.
yeah.
We don't know how truly prepared we are for that. So I feel like I just need a little bit more preparation and then maybe, I'll work my way back up that ladder.
Okay. Okay, you have such a good attitude about it. I'm sure that you
Oh,
will.
thank you.
Already. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you for sharing that.
No, and thank you so much for the platform also. I've been a C5 member for many, many years.
Yeah, yeah, I recognize your name now, and we remember Allison with love,
Yes.
wherever
Thank
she is now.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for that, Costa.
thank you. And I see Ingrid, you're
Ye-
wanting.
Yes,
Go.
I'm actually doing this on behalf of Mary Claire. She can raise her hand. She'd like to ask you a question or make a comment.
Thank you so much, Ingrid. Here I am. Costa, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. How are you?
Okay, excellent. I am very well. And thank you so much. And thank you, Ingrid. This is so fine to hear about what you're doing and have done. And I salute you for how you have helped our humanity move forward in such a fine way. I wanted to respond to a couple of things you said. You're welcome, and give you an idea for your love group, but also to respond to what Peggy asked about protection. I'm not going to go into details of the various experiences I have had, which ranged initially from extremely, extremely excellent to then in a moment of being very down in my home in the hate in San Francisco, I then got invaded in a way that was not good. And so I'm not going to describe that in any way, except to say what I did. And so initially, I had a star being come and actually be inside me,
Mm.
rather in a regal way, as a very uh, regal, old-fashioned leader might have done to respond to this group. And I was just kind of consciously aware that that was going on. But then as I became a little bit too aware of the situation, my brain or guidance kicked in, and the best thing I did was to just start laughing. Because as
Ah,
some of us know, right? Like the Dalai Lama will teach different things. If we laugh or if we have a sense of delight, then the energy can't really stick with us if we don't
mm,
respond to fear. So I had some pretty intense things happening, and I just kept laughing. And you could,
wow.
some of some of us are old enough to remember, Pink Floyd songs about, the lunatic is in the park, and so I kind
Yeah,
of was, looking along those lines. But to take care of myself, I actually had to run out into the street, and there I was just laughing with all this stuff going on. I got a cab and I took myself to a hospital because
no,
I thought this is research. They'll be able to see what's been done and take blood pressure and all this other stuff.
that's
And they go,
really brave and to being together. Wow.
well, I thought it was safety,
Well, okay.
okay,
That
and
above all.
also research because it was like this will be proof. And they're like, oh yeah, well we'll put you over here in this ward. Well, I think you belong over here. And I was like, okay, sure, I'm happy to go there because I figure I would be protected, right? And the thing that got me out of there was a video I had taken. Now, this is the second point that I wanted to make. That's something that your love group might want to do. It's so fine. And also to, I can't remember who the first person who's, maybe it was Sue, who was asking what to, or no, it was, oh my gosh, Janelle. You are so humble in your experience and thinking that perhaps you hadn't had enough contact. But if you do this one, and anyone can try this one really fun experience, and it's great for kids, so that if you have children or grandchildren, or open-minded kids who would just love this, and especially if they're autistic or on the spectrum in some manner of fashion, which usually is part of our ET brethren, cousins, sister, and coming on into form already through the birth canal. You take your camera on your phone and use your video, and you just point up at the sky, especially if you see cloud formations. But first, you scan it with your eyes. And those of us who are used to doing pattern recognition, if you see something that looks like a triangle with little pagoda tips on the side, right? Then the sort of classic shapes, and you'll get to know different ones that have character like it's like a fingerprint. They'll be sort of ovoid or something, or one will look like a big tall bell. And I've been taking videos of these for years. And then what you do, because it's high vibrational, is you slow it down,
Mm,
and you can see frame by frame different things occur. So I was compiling before this situation happened in my home that brought me to the hospital. I was compiling a short video to post online, and I actually sent it to Judy and to have the team there look at to see what they thought. This was years ago, but just to see if other people could give input as to the different type of light, like the orbs you had at Shasta, and but some more very precise rays that were coming through. And and I couldn't get this thing completed on my laptop. I was overloaded with energy. And so a star being actually came into my form, sort of like you see happen with Whoopi Goldberg in Ghost, where there's
mm.
something that actually kind of takes her, and it actually used my hands on the laptop to
Wow.
complete the video,
Wow.
posted it online. And because it was on YouTube, this little 5-minute thing, I could finally get the attention of an attorney to say, won't you please let the judge get me out of here? Look at this. And he goes, okay, yeah, we're gonna show this proof that you actually did have contact. And
Wow.
the judge would not look at it, the doctors would not look at it, but because the judge trusted the attorney, I got right out of there. It was really funny. But what you can do is so I just say the power of it. What I would do, especially in when I first started doing this in South Asia, whether in Bali or Malaysia, I would point up And if I saw that there was a certain energetic cloud, especially a quality of light, then you can take what you do, Gus, I'm almost finished here, and speak as you're filming the cloud, speak into it and engage with it and say, I send out love to all beings, and just keep repeating that. And eventually, oftentimes, it'll just start glowing and growing and
Huh.
responding
Wow.
actually to you. So children can do these things. They're totally free. They're
Mhm.
creative. They're engaging. They're safe. And if you ever do find yourself in a situation because your energy is lower, as mine had been for that situation that I described, then all the things you mentioned, Gus, is what I would do. And if all else fails, just laugh like you're the
Okay.
subject of that old Pink Floyd song. So I know that was long, but I hope
Well,
that
thank
gives
you.
people some ideas. You're welcome.
No, you have quite a few several ideas. I had never thought of those. Laughing, for one thing, is an immediate vibration raiser, right? Although I'm thinking of the Austin Power movies and the evil laughs. Maybe those are not so good, like Doctor Evil, whatever. But most of us will do a belly happy laugh, and yeah, and I get that. Great narrative. Thank you for that. I
You're
especially
welcome.
like the idea. I have two new grandsons who are not quite yet ready to hold a camera, but in a few years, um, I want to try that with them. Which is suggested, have them point the camera to cloud and then just start speaking and seeing what happens later on. That's so
Yeah, I
simple,
mean,
right? Anybody can
you
do that.
you can, and I'll also say just one other point about responding to Peggy about the laughter. The other thing I really tried to do because I was formulating a plan of where I was going to go, and I was kind of tricky about it, so I could really get away. And I had said, oh, I have to go do this, make a will and all this kind of stuff and have it notarized. And because this thing went on for a while, but I emptied my mind. This is where your meditations can really come in. It was not only laughing, but I was clearing my mind of any planning thoughts and really staying in the moment, and that would be the other thing. But for the non-children in the group who really are explorers, you will find you if you look in those of you who are engineers, if you look up in the sky and you see a cloud formation and you notice pattern recognition that's only partial, but that if you were to continue the line, you'd see the perfectly shaped saucer, even if it's only an image that's being projected to you from a consciousness. It's not a ship, but more or less to say, we're here, we're present with you, and this is this one group that has this one shape. But you can also find like a Palladian starship that is a long, rectangle with all the different. So you see right angles, you see different precise wheels or tubes or whatever. And then also giant motherships like you see in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So these are all possible. The difficult part is the energy can be so high that by the time in your excitement to then review the film on your camera, it's usually in big chunks of not precise detail. It's sort of more amorphous because
Mm.
it's kind of blurred a bit. So you have to just realize you know what you experienced and you have enough really to show for it. But those of you who are really curious and you want to try something safe, I would highly recommend that. It's been great fun.
It's fun to play with this. Yeah, it's a way of joy. I mean that let's have fun with this, right? There's enough
Yeah,
seriousness around. Okay, thank you for sharing all
you're welcome.
those possible ways to make literally light of this subject. I see now that I don't see any more raised hands. I think this is a good time probably to conclude. We've been an amazing, looks like 2 hours. Where did that time go? I, I wish things that I don't enjoy went by this fast in my life, but this was not one of them. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your thoughts. Whether we agreed or disagreed, it's important. Let's keep talking because the worst thing that can happen is we'll learn something, right? And I think that's really necessary right now. And we may learn to love something. So I appreciate you all for being here. And for those of you who are watching this as an archive or something and you managed to stay with us this long, congratulations. Go buy a lottery ticket. You're a winner. Uh, but please spread all this around so we can get the community more involved and synergize with each other. Take care. Till next time, then. Bye bye.